All right, now enough of me. It's time to get started with our first keynote speaker. I really cannot think of a better guy to kick off a Monday morning session than Marcus Sheridan. I'm not going to repeat all the stuff that you heard me say on the video. I'll let Marcus introduce himself. But let me tell you, I guess from a personal experience, Marcus, be ready to get engaged. This is not going to be a session where you kind of get to sit there and act like a knot on a log. And Marcus is going to challenge you to think. He's going to ask you questions about things, and he's got a phenomenal story of success that has a lot of real practical lessons that I guarantee you can put to practice. So, Marcus, that's going to be it for my introduction, buddy. Come on up, Mr. Marcus Sheridan.
All right. Good morning. I will speak probably, 70, 80 places this year. This will be the one event that isn't afraid to address God and country to start. Give yourself a big round of applause for that. Love that. If we could only have more of that, beautiful, beautiful. So I want to talk this morning about a few different things that have changed my life, and I'm just... it's fascinating what's happening right now. It's a time of opportunity. You students, by the way, you look great. You do look great. You look very uniform, as stated. You're going to learn things this morning they did not teach you in college. I promise you that. And then you're going to say to yourselves, why am I going? And there will be a reason, I promise. There will be a reason. So let's discuss it. Got the deck coming up there, brother? So I wanted to talk about a trend that is happening and that's affecting all of us every single day as businesses. And so I'm going to define this phrase, zero moment of truth, and then the smartest person in the room, whoever that is going to tell me the relationship between 70% and zero moment of truth. Okay, so zero moment of truth is the first time a potential customer contacts you and you know they exist. Okay, so it could be the moment that they call your location. It could be the moment that they fill out a form on your website. It could be the moment that you meet them at some industry event, but it's the moment you now know they might want to do business with you. That's zero moment of truth. So who can tell me the relationship with 70% and zero moment of truth? And this has to do with the way buyers have changed. Anybody go? Don't be shy. Come on. So whether they're going to do business with you or not, I like that a lot. Good. Anybody else? Go ahead. Come on. Come on, you brave students, step up.
They already know about you 70% of the time. They know about you before you know about them.
Aubie says 70% of the time they know about you before you know about them. This is really, really good, Aubie. This is why you're CEO, right? And so this is what we know, that today on average, 70% of the buying decision is made before zero moment of truth. 70% of the buying decision is made before they call you, before they contact you, certainly before they have ever shook your hand. On average, in every industry in the world. Now, some of you hear that and you say, I don't think it's like that in the insurance space. Okay. I can promise you in your space, it's either higher or lower than 70%. Some of you got it. Some of you got it. It's all right. That's all right. Okay. But I'm sure we could agree on this. If we analyzed history, right, then we would see a shift in patterns, right? So let's go back 10, 15, 20 years. We'll call it 15 years. And we said, what percentage of the buying decision was made before someone talked to a salesperson 15, 20 years ago? What do you think that percentage was? Yeah. If I had to make a guess, and I don't think they did the study, I'd say 30 to 40%. So that's where we are 15 years ago, right? So we go from 30 to 40% to 70%. So the question is for you and for me, for everybody in this room, every business, certainly every producer, is where is this number going to go over the next 5, 10, 15 years? And what does it mean for us as an industry? One of the pills that we have to swallow is this. Now, let's just assume that you have these departments, even if you don't call it these specific names. If this number's true, which department of your organization has a greater impact on the actual sale of the thing? Is it the sales department or the marketing department? Which one? All right, which department? Say a little bit louder. Marketing, yes. Notwithstanding, generally speaking, when a company's in financial trouble, the first department that gets laid off is marketing. Anybody here in marketing, by the way? Anybody here in marketing? This is how you're going to get a raise, so pay attention, right? And generally speaking, when we're looking to grow the business, the first department that gets hired is sales. So the question is, why is it that way? Why is it that way? because we've always done it that way. Isn't that right, Bobby? Since the beginning of really time, that's the way we've done it. And that's because if you talk to a CFO, right, they're going to say this. They're going to have their financial spreadsheet, and they're going to classify sales as revenue and marketing as expense. Flawed? Yes, in 2018, very, very flawed. If we're still thinking that, if your CFO is still saying that, we're not catching the vision. That's 70%. And we as a group, as an industry, we've got to embrace this to understand what's happening next and to be able to deal with it accordingly. Okay, so you say, I better have a great website. Well, how do you define, how would you as a buyer, as a searcher, as a user, how would you define the phrase great website today? Tim, what do you think, buddy? How would you define great website for you as a buyer, as a searcher?
I would say it's got to be very personalized. It's got to be very intuitive to use.
Personal, intuitive. Yes, I like that. You know, the essence, some people might have said easy to navigate. You said easy to use. All these things, they mean the same thing. Essentially what we're saying is when we go there, I want to find it, and I want to find it fast. That's the essence of great user experience. But this is the same reason why all of us have grown more impatient when we shop offline in 2018. It's because the expectations have been raised. And that is the essence of what we're talking about today, the shift in today's buyer. My quick story, I used to be a pool guy. Anybody know what type of in-ground swimming pool this is? In other words, what's it made out of? Anybody know? Okay, that's right. Some of you are really good. Fiberglass pool. That is one of about 1,300 fiberglass pools my company, River Pools, has installed throughout Virginia, Maryland, and some in North Carolina, as a matter of fact. We started this company in 2001. Things were going pretty well up until this particular date and number. What's that date and number represent? Anybody know?
Kind of quick.
Yeah, what's the bottom number? Yeah, that's the Dow. Good or bad day for pool guys? How do most people, generally speaking, how do most people get the money to buy a pool? Anybody know? Bonuses. You can tell that was a CEO right there. See, this is America, all right? And in America, most people actually they actually have to borrow the money. So they get a home equity line, a second mortgage. And so after this day, most people were upside down. And so within 48 hours of the crash, we lost $250,000 in business. 5 pools withdrew their deposit and said, we just can't do it. And so over the coming weeks, it got worse and worse and worse. And by January 2009, we're literally going over the edge. I talked to 3 consultants that month, and they all 3 said the same thing. Marcus, you should file bankruptcy. But the problem was, if I filed bankruptcy, I was going to lose my home, my 2 business partners would have lost their homes, my 16 employees would have lost their jobs. So we had to figure out a way how to get back over that edge without really spending any money to do that. Now, here's the great fear that I have. You're going to enjoy yourselves today. We're going to have a great 75 minutes together, which is what we have. And you're going to say this, and you're going to hear this, and you're going to say, you know, it's great what happened to your swimming pool company, because obviously now today the company is thriving. You'll hear the rest of the story later. But my fear is this, that you say that might have worked for you and your business in Virginia, Marcus, but you see here in the insurance industry, and certainly in North Carolina, things are, go ahead and say, different. What percentage of businesses in the world truly believe they're different? 100%. Nobody's ever said to me, you know what, Marcus, our agency's just like theirs. Most of you guys are wearing the same pants in this room. Trust me, you're the same. Y'all looking around like, dang, he's right. He's right. You know, there's a great divide I see in audiences around the world, and I'm being really serious about this. It's the ones that hear something new and they say, is it possible, that get the most out of these types of events. But the ones that sit there and say, yeah, but we're different, we're B2B, we're B2C, we're service, we're product, we're local, we're national, we're mom, we're pop, we're whatever we are. Because the same reason why people bought a pool from me is the same reason why they do business with you, right, Mark? I mean, there's a certain emotion that allows somebody to give you their money. I mean, that's what we actually do. We ask people for their money. In order for someone to give you their money, they have to experience a certain emotion. What is that emotion? Trust. And that's the one singular tie that binds every business together. I've never found a business that said, you know, we're not in the business of trust. And so what I'm going to try to tell you very quickly this morning is how you can become the most trusted voice in your space. That is my goal. And so please don't put yourself in that corner for different. Say to yourselves, is it possible that we apply that thing as an agent myself, as a producer, as an agency? Will you do that? Say yes if you're with me. Yes. You're committed now. Okay, good. Now, when we were going over the edge of River Pools, I started to read all these fancy phrases online like inbound marketing, content marketing, social, and all this stuff. And what I heard in my simple pool guy mind was this. Marcus, if you just Obsess over your customers' questions. Good, bad, or ugly, because that exists in every industry. You just might save your business. So our core philosophy became 4 simple words, which of course are, they ask, you answer. This became the title of the book, and now this is taught in college universities today. It's pretty exciting. And that's what I'm going to talk about this morning. They ask, you answer is a philosophy of business. It's you saying, you know what, if anybody has ever asked it, we feel like it's our moral obligation to address it on the front end during that 70%. They ask you answer is, you know what, buyers have changed. They want to buy it this way, so we have to be willing to sell it this way. They ask you answer is, they want to learn it this way, so are we willing to teach it and communicate it this way? It's an obsession with the way that they think, not being obsessed with the way that we've done it for the last 50, 75, 100 years. But here's the thing about the ask you answer. Most people don't embrace it. Most companies, certainly agencies, would instead embrace what we call, you didn't learn this in college, ostrich marketing. An ostrich, when it has a problem, what does it do? Sticks its head in the sand, which is actually a total myth, but it's a good example, so we'll use it, right? It sticks its head in the sand because it thinks, what's going to happen with the problem? It'll go away. But does it ever go away? So has there ever been a question that you get all the time from potential customers on the front end when you're in the sales process where you said to yourself, you know what, we could never address this question on our website. Why don't we wait till we're just face-to-face with this individual? Can anybody think of a question like that? Go ahead. Come on. Come on. Because if you can't think of one, you're getting ready to see a bunch. What are the things that you say, you know what, we can't address that on the front end. Why don't we just wait till we're face-to-face? Why don't we wait till they ask us? Price. Can't talk about that, right? All right? And there's a bunch of others, isn't it? What's another one that you can't talk about? Competition. You're pretty good. Pretty good. And there's a bunch more. There's a bunch more. We're going to look at those. We're going to look at those. But here's the problem. You can't be the ostrich with your head in the sand and become the voice of trust in your industry. So here's what we have found. There's basically 5 subjects in the world that every buyer, your industry, swimming pool industry, doesn't matter what industry, 5 subjects that everybody wants to know before they engage a company. In other words, before they talk to a salesperson, they want to understand these 5 things so as to make sure they're not making a mistake. Can anybody guess the 5 things that you always want to know before you walk into the store or before you call the company? Anybody? What are some 5 subjects you want to know? Think about it. You said reputation, and usually to find reputation, we don't specifically search reputation, we search for reviews. Good. What's another one? You want to know how much it is. Even if you can afford it, you want to know how much it is, don't you? Good. Anyone else you can think of? Okay? So these are the 5 right here. Here's the 5. This is the economy right now. Yours and mine. As buyers, we're obsessed with how much is it? What are the negatives or the issues with it? In other words, how could this blow up in my face? How does it compare to that other thing that I'm looking at? What is everybody saying about it, and what is the best it? That, again, that is how it works in every single industry. And what's so fascinating is even though buyers are obsessed with this, businesses don't like to talk about it. Not on the front end. Certainly not during that 70%. So this creates a paradox of wants. And so we're going to talk quickly about how you can address these, and this is going to be really fun, and I need your participation because we're going to start with the big one, which is money. Okay, now if we can turn the house lights up a little bit, that's great. Either way, you can see me, right? So I'm coming to you, ECU, because man, your football team needs some help, all right? So, I want everybody to participate with this. I love you guys. Somebody from my high school that I'm good friends with went and punted at your college long before most of you were born. Now, has anybody here researched how much something cost online in the last year? Raise your hand, okay? Okay? Anybody here not done that? Amish or living off the grid? Totally respectable. Totally respectable. Now, when you're on a website and you can't find anything about cost and price, when you can't find anything about cost and price and you're looking for it, what is the emotion you experience? Frustration. You're going to say that's the F word of the internet. So what gives you the right to feel frustrated in that moment? What gives you the right? Yeah, there's other options. The expectations have been raised. And you are the what? You're the buyer. And you're saying to yourself, I'm trying to give you my money. And you're making it very difficult for me. So that in this moment of frustration, do you as the buyer, do you as the searcher, do you as the consumer, do you say to yourself, oh, I'm sure it's on this website somewhere. I'm just going to keep looking on this site until I find it? Laughable. In fact, how long do you think somebody will stay on a website looking for cost and price information if they can't find it? Anybody have a guess? We've done the studies. Yeah, about 10 seconds. About 10 seconds. Pretty interesting. It's getting shorter by the day. Now, in this moment of frustration, do you say to yourself as the buyer, as the searcher, that's okay, they're not talking about it. Of course they're not talking about it. They're a value-based business. I'm going to call them on the phone instead. Oh, you don't do that either. Because you as the buyer, you as the searcher, you keep doing what? You keep searching. You search until what happens? You find what you're looking for. And generally speaking, whoever gives you what you're looking for, they're going to get what? Your money, your business. And if not your money or business, at least they're going to get first contact, first phone call. And I'm sure we could all agree, everybody in this room, that if you had a choice, you would rather be the first company contacted. Yes or no? Now, what's interesting about this is the real reason we get so upset as buyers is because we know that they know as the business the answer, or at least a semblance of the answer. Maybe not the exact, but a semblance. And because we know they know the answer and they're not giving it to us, we now feel like they're doing what? Hiding something from us. And the moment you feel like anybody is hiding anything from you online, what happens? Trust is gone. And again, what is the business we're in? Trust, the business of trust. Now, that being said, by a show of hands, how many of you on your website right now, please participate, talk a lot about cost and price, rates, etc. of your services and products? Raise your hand. Mic's not working. They didn't hear me, sir. So let's just turn it up a little bit because nobody raised their hand on that one, okay? Now, this is interesting. Now, a minute ago, it was like, I love this guy. Now you're thinking, I don't know if I like this guy anymore, right? I don't know if I like this guy. It's fascinating. Literally, a minute ago, we said, it's my right to know. I do not call. But now, we say, when it comes to our business, yeah, but you see, Marcus, things are different. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So let's address it. There's three major reasons why most companies don't address cost and price on their website. Three majors. Let's talk about each one. First major reason why we don't talk about cost and price on the website. Anybody go? Come on. Okay, competition. All right, who said that one? Good, competition. What's your name, by the way? Sheridan. Love it, Cherry. So here's what's interesting about competition, right? So if I came to you all, especially those that have been in this game for any period of time, and I said, do you have a very good sense as to what your competitors charge, or what the rates are, whatever you might want to call it? Most of you would say, what? Yes, you have a very good sense. And so if you have a very good sense as to what your competitors charge, it therefore means what? They have a pretty good sense of what you charge. You see, this is the big secret, non-secret. Everybody acts like nobody knows what everybody's charging, when in reality, everybody has a pretty good sense as to what everybody's charging. But besides that, when was the last time your competitors actually paid your bills? Yet we allow them to stand between us and that magical thing we call trust. Pretty crazy, right, Joe? Now, the second reason why we don't like to talk about cost and price is what? Anybody? Come on. Too many variables. That's a good one, Brad. So, Brad, if I came to you and I said to you, let me give you an example. Right now, I'm building a really big manufacturing facility for my swimming pools, right? And because we do fiberglass, we're building our own pools now. I have all these regulations, and I have fire hazards, and I'm having to get a different type of insurance than I have before, right? So if I came to you and I said, can you help me, and just answer yes or no, can you help me understand the factors that would drive my rates for this particular type of insurance up? Could you help me understand that, yes or no? If I came to you and I said, can you help me understand the factors that would help keep it down? Could you explain that, yes or no? If I came to you, Brad, and I said, you know what, you gave me a price for this particular type of coverage. I've gotten a price from a few of your competitors. I'm a little bit confused. Some of you are pretty high. Some of you are lower. Some of you are in the middle. Can you help me understand why there's such a delta in the industry? Could you help me understand that, yes or no? And of course, how many times over the course of your years have you explained that very question to somebody? Many, many times. Hundreds? Absolutely. We do it every single day. Third reason why we don't like to talk about cost and price is because we're afraid if we're a little bit more expensive, what might happen? Might lose the business, right? That's an interesting one there. What's interesting about it is what we all just agreed as a group. The thing that actually scares us away as buyers when we're researching is when the company hides it, doesn't talk about it. Case in point, let's use an example. Now, you might say, this isn't the same thing, Marcus. No, this example is the same thing because it's all psychology. That's all it is. So let's say that we want to go to a new restaurant tonight. You've never been there before. You're going to take a loved one. You want it to be a great experience. Before you go to that restaurant tonight, you're going to do two things other than make a reservation to make sure it's a great experience tonight. What are the two things you're going to do before you go there? Anybody go? Come on. Okay, you're going to look at reviews and you go to the menu. You all said it really, really fast. Congratulations, you're human. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you go to the menu and there is no pricing, are you still going to go? Now, some of you are thinking to yourself, well, I mean, is it going on the company card or not? I mean, that's pretty fair. That's pretty fair. See, I know how you roll. I know how you roll. But this is what we know. In that moment, 80% of all people don't go. And it's not because they can't afford it. What's the reason? What's the reason? Because the moment they left it blank, they planted a seed of doubt. And when seeds of doubt exist, inertia occurs. Same reason. Same reason. What's your name? Monty. You look like a stern fellow. So, same reason. You've gone to that restaurant before, right, Monty? And you wanted to order the lobster, didn't you? But next to the lobster, what did Monty see? Market price. Now, in that moment of seeing market price, Monty has a choice. He can ask the server how much it is or not. But he knows if he asks the server how much it is, and then he doesn't get it, it makes him look cheap. And Monty, you are cheap. You are. But you don't want them to know. And so what does he do? He orders the chicken. He orders the chicken. I pick on those I like. Give Monty a round of applause, by the way. Yes. So that's the three reasons why we don't do it. And they're all pretty funny if you think about them. Now, some of you still aren't sold on this idea, so let's continue with it. How much does a fiberglass swimming pool cost, by the way? How much does it cost? All right, $25,000 on the cheapest day, Mark. Okay, right? Could it cost $100,000? Yes. Could it cost $200,000? Yes, we can get you there. I promise you that. So the answer to how much a fiberglass swimming pool costs is? Well, it depends, doesn't it? So when we embrace this philosophy of they ask you answer, the first piece of content we put on our website was how much does a fiberglass pool cost? And we said it's a lot like buying a car. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of accessories. Here's what would drive it up. Here's what would keep it down. Here's some different packages. Some people want a very basic pool. Some people want a very expensive pool. Here's some ranges as to what you might spend. Here's why some companies are expensive, why some companies are cheap. But ultimately, the answer to your question is, it depends. But because we were willing to explain it, something very interesting happened next. Buyers, when they would call me, will now say things like, Marcus, I just want to thank you because finally somebody was willing to address this question. How much practice do people get buying pools in their life? You college students, were you taught yet how to buy an in-ground swimming pool? You just don't even know. You have no idea. What's funny is, even people with insurance, they don't know. Like me right now with this huge building that I'm building and all these regulations that I have to deal with and all these insurances that I now have to have, I am ignorant. I don't know. I don't understand. Now, from a search perspective, within 48 hours of that post, if you went online and you search any of these questions about a fiberglass pool, this is the first one that you saw. How much does it cost? What's the price of an in-ground fiberglass pool? Or how much does it cost to build a pool? Now, that's just visitors. That's not revenue. Let's now track it back to revenue. Remember, marketing and revenue. Here's where it gets interesting. Now, stay with me on this, okay? Here's a list of the number one phrases that generate the most traffic to the site over the next few years. So look at the top one. We've got fiberglass pool prices, if you see that, fiberglass pool prices. We had 13,000 people went to Google, typed in fiberglass pool prices. Of those 13,000, 30 of them filled out a form and said, I want to get a quote from you. So the number that you see on the right side are people that said, I want to have a sales appointment, I want to have a sales call, okay? The red arrows are coming from phrases that when somebody searched it, they landed on that article that's on the website. How much does a fiberglass pool cost first, okay? So this is important. So you've got roughly 200 plus sales appointments from those red arrows of people that originally landed on that article. How much does a fiberglass pool cost? So here's the important question. If that article is never written, how many of those sales appointments ever occur? 0 to almost none. Why? Because they never would have found us, right, Bobby? But they did find us. And many of them did read. And many of them did say, hey, I'd like to get a quote. And many of them had a quote. Many of them bought. We know the names of the ones that bought. We know the value of their pools. And I can put it back on top of this one little piece of content. I can add up all the pools and place it on top of an article that took me 45 minutes to write in my kitchen table. And I can tell you without equivocation that one single article since the day it was written has generated over $6 million in sales that we would not have had we not been willing to address the simple question. One single article saved my business. Save the jobs of my employees. And did we ever really say how much a fiberglass pool costs? No. Not really. So what am I espousing here? Am I saying that you should put a price list on your website, yes or no? No. What are we saying here? Monica, what are we saying? Give them options. Help them understand. Grab their hand and walk them through this process. Otherwise, how should they know? Because when they don't know, this is what happens in every single industry. When people say, okay, I can buy this, and this is the same regardless of who's selling it, but this person will sell to me for $500, and this person will sell to me for $400, but it's the same thing, so I'll just go with the $400 one. That has a name. It's called commoditization, isn't it? What commoditizes isn't the Geicos of the world. What commoditizes is ignorance of the marketplace. When they don't understand how it differs across the board. When they truly don't understand what it's like to have a real agent that actually cares. Do you see what I'm saying? And if we don't talk about it unintentionally, what we end up doing is we commoditize the very thing that we're trying to decommoditize. I'm asking you to be great teachers, to think just like your buyers, to be willing to address the questions that they have. So based on that, is it possible that we talk a lot more about cost and price on the website? Yes or no? Yes, yes or no? Yes. You college students are like, oh yeah, I'm totally into this. That was one semester. Let's go to second semester right now. Okay, good, good. Lots of things we address. People used to ask me all the time, what are the problems with fiberglass pools? Nobody in the world had addressed that question, so we openly addressed the problems with fiberglass pools. And because we openly addressed the questions with fiberglass swimming pool, something very interesting happened. This became, it's fascinating, over the next couple of years, this represents the #1 phrases that generate the most sales appointments to our website. And if you look at the #1 that generated 32, other than our company name, which I don't really count, was the phrase fiberglass pools problems. How is it possible that talking about the negatives that people are asking you could in this case generate over $500,000 in revenue? How's it possible? Exactly, Jim. You overcome their fear. The best way in life to eliminate the concern is to address it when? Before it becomes a concern. That's why, Jim, if you ever run for political office, you have to tell people that you smoked dope when you were younger. You know what I'm saying, right? Because otherwise it's a bad thing. But if you tell them, you're a man of the people. You see what I'm saying, all right? This is how it works. This is how it works. Get in front of it. You get in front of it, see, you're like, man, this is amazing. So, the next one. People used to ask me all the time, Marcus, tell me the difference between concrete and fiberglass pools. They used to ask me all the time. No swimming pool company in the world had addressed the simple question, concrete versus fiberglass pools. And here's the logic of fiberglass pool guy. Fiberglass pool guy was saying, our biggest competitor is concrete pools. So this is how we're going to handle it. We're not even going to talk about them on our website. And if we don't talk about them, well then nobody will know they exist. Has anybody ever done that in this space? Just ignored the big hairy elephant in the room. Act like it didn't exist. How often does that really pay off? Buyers aren't dumb. Even the uninformed will become the informed. And so, because we recognize this, we openly compared concrete and fiberglass pools. And today, if you go online, you compare any type of in-ground swimming pool, we're the first ones you're going to see. We own that conversation. We own it. Now let's do one more. We've talked about 3 of these 5 subjects. We've talked about cost. We've talked about the problems with the negatives. We've talked about comparisons. Now hopefully what you're doing is this. You're thinking in your mind, what are all the cost-based questions I've gotten over the years? What are all the negative questions that I've gotten over the years that I'm like, I'm hoping they're not asking? What are all the comparison-based questions I've gotten over the years? You versus this plan versus that plan, this type of insurance versus that type of insurance. There's so many, isn't it, Scott? I mean, every industry, it's all the same thing. Now, the final 2 I'm going to combine, and we're going to call them reviews and best, right? Now, this one is just, so many people have a hard time with this, but if you do this, I'm telling you, it's fascinating, the results. Has anybody here ever been asked before, I like you, I do. I think I want to do business with you, with your firm, with your agency. But if we don't do business with you, is there anybody else that you might recommend? Anybody ever heard that? Don't you hate that question? Now, how do most people, I'm not saying you, but how do most people answer that question? Yeah, you go, Jim. Go ahead, man. I mean, there's nobody quite like us, you know? I mean, the way we do what we do. I mean, our paper is just different, right? And the whole time the person's just thinking, come on, man, just be honest with me. You know, one night I was in Richmond, Virginia. This was when I was still a pool guy. Obviously today I'm just a silent partner with River Pools. But when I was still selling pools, I met with this couple for like 2.5 hours. And they said, Marcus, I like you. We like you. We think we want to do business with you. But if we don't do business with you, is there anybody else that you might recommend? And I thought, daggone it, I hate this question. And I didn't sell the pool that night. But I did have a long drive home, and I thought to myself, well, they asked the question, which means what? I got to answer, right, Robert? So I went home that night, and I wrote this article right here, Who Are the Best Pool Builders in Richmond, Virginia, Reviews/Ratings. And I came up with a list of 5 of the best pool builders in Richmond, Virginia. Now, first question for you, am I on that list of 5, yes or no? Yes. Oh, this is great. This is great. Anybody say no? One of you college kids say no. Say it, Nathaniel. Have some guts, say no. No. You're right, Nathaniel. You're absolutely right. Now, the question is why, though. The question is why. Now, here's the thing. You're a bachelor, right, Nathaniel? Yeah. Okay. And you go to, yeah, figured that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding with you, right? Right. And so you go to App State, right? So if you created a best of list for like the most available bachelors in App State right now, you created that list, you published it in your school newspaper, everybody knew that you wrote the list, right? And you put yourself on said list, what would happen? Would you lose credibility? Now, the problem is Nathaniel's sitting there thinking, that is the greatest idea I've ever heard, right? That's the problem. I can tell his eyes totally say it all, right? Totally say it all. But the problem is you would lose credibility, and of course our business is built on what? Trust. So no, I'm not on the list. Now you're thinking to yourself, this doesn't make any sense at all. Why did they bring this pool guy? Okay, stay with me. Stay with me. First off, if you're reading this article, where are you? On my site. You're in my home. You're in my house. You're making your opinions there. But furthermore, let's go beyond that. Let's say that you just moved to Richmond, Virginia. You want to get a swimming pool. You don't even know who to ask, right? And so, because you don't know who to ask, you go online, you search Best Pool Builders, Richmond, Virginia. Very, very common search, by the way, or Best Insurance Agency. It's all the same thing. Every industry is the same thing. So you search, and the first one that you see, because lo and behold, they were the only ones that bothered to answer such a common question, is our site. So you get there and you start to read. Now I'm going to read the first 2 paragraphs. I want you to stay with me here. I want you to tell me your impression of this company after the first 2 paragraphs. Now remember, you just moved to Richmond and you're just looking to work with an honest swimming pool company. Here we go. Each year, we at River Pools and Spas meet with well over 100 households in the Central Virginia, Richmond area with respect to their in-ground swimming pool installation. And because so many folks know our thoughts and feelings from this website on all things pool construction, they often ask us, who are some of the other builders competitors you have in the area? Never wants to shy away from being blatantly honest with respect to the competition. We want our customers to be as informed as possible. Here's a list of some of the companies that have a solid in-ground pool building history in the Richmond area. What's your impression of this company right now? Honest. Do you feel like they're an expert, yes or no? But did they say it? Yet you feel it, and you feel it why? Why do you feel it? Because they were willing to address the elephant, right, Jeff? Plus 100 plus people trust them a year. So what's the result of this? Well, of course, if you go online and you search Best Pool Builders, Richmond, Virginia, this is the first one you're going to see, but that's not the cool part. Let's say you went online and you searched reviews. Go to the top part there. You see it right at the top. Reviews, Playmore Pools, Richmond, Virginia. They happen to be our biggest competitor, right, in Richmond. Reviews, Playmore Pools, Richmond, Virginia. Well, once you get past Yelp that nobody's going to click on for a swimming pool anyway, the first one you're going to see, and probably the first one you're going to read is who? Us. And that's why today, if you're researching any of our competitors, generally speaking, where are you going to learn about them?
Your website.
On our website. Isn't that beautiful? I had a lady come to me a couple years ago, and she said, Marcus, the craziest thing happened. I was this close to signing a contract with Playmore Pools, but before I signed that contract, I decided to go online and research their company. And as I was researching their company, I stumbled across this article that you guys had written. I said, my goodness, these guys are so honest, I should probably call them too. And of course, you know what happened, don't you? Because otherwise, I wouldn't be telling you the story, right? I mean, you know. So that article generated $150,000 in revenue for the company that year. Now, some of you might be thinking, yeah, but haven't you now introduced them to the competition? Y'all, if somebody wants to know who our competitors are, roughly how long will it take them to figure it out? 0.7 seconds. And that's why I know and you know that consumer ignorance is no longer a viable sales and marketing strategy. It was at one time. but it no longer is. We can use that to our advantage or our disadvantage. But the moment we say we're going to use it to our advantage, it gives us this ability to communicate at a level that we never have before. And because we did these things, this is what happened to our website traffic. We went from 2,000 visitors a month to today, we're actually averaging about 700,000 visitors a month. We are the most trafficked swimming pool website in the world. It saved the business. We became the largest installer of fiberglass pools in the US, and then we started manufacturing pools, and now we're getting dealers all over the country because the demand for the river pool is so high. And it all happened because of a simple philosophy. If anybody has a question, good, bad, or ugly, we're going to address it. We saw ourselves as teachers. We said we're going to become the Wikipedia of this industry. And the advantage that we had is that we didn't have any red tape. We didn't have anybody to tell us no. We didn't have a board that was going to shoot it down like some of these big box companies have. No, we were a digital David and a land of Goliath, and it was beautiful. And because of that, we won the industry. And this is what's possible for anybody if you're willing to see it like your customers do. Are you seeing the principles of They Ask You Answer, Mallory? I like how your brain's back at thinking, Mallory. I can tell your brain's thinking. Now, got another question for you. How many pages of your website do you think a potential customer is willing to read on average before they buy? Anybody? Come on. Okay? You said 2. You said 2. Shelley? Yeah, that's what everybody says. That doesn't matter in the industry. Everybody says 1 to 2. Now, there's a problem that we all have. We've all bought into this idea that everybody's too busy, that people don't have the time. The reality is that when somebody's getting ready to spend their money, they will make the time. I've seen this over and over again. And if you study the data and the facts, instead of looking at simple studies about what gets shared on Facebook, you will see that this is definitively true. Now, let me tell you about a number that changed my life. It's number 30. At the beginning of 2014, I was comparing 2 groups of people on my company website. Both had filled out a form and said, I want to get a quote from you. This group here ended up not buying. This group here ended up buying. So I said, what is the difference between the ones that did not versus did buy? And I noticed the number 30 kept jumping out underneath the group that had bought a pool. So what do you think that number 30 represented? Yeah, pretty good. Total pages viewed. This is what we found. If somebody read 30 or more pages of the website before the initial sales appointment, they would buy 80% of the time. If they didn't hit that magic number 30, the closing rates were about 25%. So what was happening over the course of those 30 pages? That's right, Bobby. Trust was being built. They were working themselves either down or out of that sales funnel themselves. And so if you knew that all you had to do was get your buyers to consume 30 pages of content and they would buy 80% of the time, what would you do differently? What would you do differently?
Create more content.
Albie says, create more content. Yeah, because if your website's 15 pages, you can't say to me, Albie, hey, Marcus, could you read my website twice? You can't do that. You know what I'm saying? Can't do that. So we better have more content. It better be about them, but it's got to be about their questions, their concerns, their worries, their fears. But it can't stop there because we have to integrate it into the sales process. And this is the part that many people mess up. Because, you see, for years, people used to say to me, you know, like, let's say it was you, Jeff, right? You'd call me up and say, hey, Marcus, I'm checking out your website. Could you come out to my house this Friday and give me a quote for a pool? And I would say, sure. I didn't even really know how much you knew. And so when we understood the power of 30, we changed the way that we sold. We changed the way that we had that conversation. And so it would sound something like this. Now, I'm not saying you should sell this way, but the moral of the story is, can we integrate content better into the sales process? Because what percentage of the questions you get on a sales call are almost the same questions every single time? It doesn't make any sense, does it? And so it would sound something like this. Jeff would call me up and say, hey, Marcus, I'm checking out your website. Could you give me a quote for a pool this Friday? And I would say, Jeff, sure, I'd love to. But you're getting ready to spend a lot of money, right? And if you're going to spend a lot of money, I know you don't want to make any mistakes. And so as to make sure you don't make any mistakes, this is what we're going to do, okay? I'm going to send you, as we're talking on the phone right now, 2 things that you're really going to like. First thing is a video that shows you the entire process of the pool being installed in your backyard. This is where you're going to see it, you're going to know what it looks like, and you're not going to say to me Friday, hey, Marcus, what does this process look like? Again, you're already going to know. Now, time out. How much time did that just save me on the sales call? Yeah, 30 minutes for me, 30 minutes. Now, the second thing I'm going to send you is a guide. This guide's great, Jeff, because it's going to answer all those nitty-gritty questions you have about pools that nobody's answered yet, like, should I get a cover with my pool? What's the best type of cover? Should it be mesh? Should it be solid? Should it be automatic? Should I get a heater? What's the best type of heater? Should it be gas? Should it be electric? Now, this guide's a little bit long. It's about 30 pages, but I promise it'll be well worth your time. Will you take the time to review these things before our appointment on Friday? And 90% of the time, he says the exact same thing, which is what? Yeah. Sure. And in North Carolina, it's probably 96% of the time, because y'all are just nicer people, right? And that's how it works. Does it hurt me to ask him to do that? No. No. Not at all. Yet so often, marketing's over here, sales is over here, they're not aligned, they're not working together. It doesn't make any sense. And so because we started doing this, we started seeing some really cool things happen. So this is a true story. Can't make it up. This is a lead sheet. So when somebody fills out a form on my site, this is what I get to see. This person is William Grizzard. We're going to call him Bill Grizzard. He's a real person. So it says, William Grizzard, he came to the site. If you look over here, it says he came to the site doing an organic search. It says that he was using Yahoo, which is really weird. And he searched cost of fiberglass pools. But then something very interesting happened next. How many pages of the site did he read? 375 pages. Luann, what is wrong with this guy? He needs more to do. I agree with you, Luann. He's probably got way too much time on his hands. Maybe he's retired. Maybe he's a competitor. Maybe he's a stalker. Maybe he has an obsessive swimming pool disorder. But either way, weird behavior, right? Same night, Luann, another lead sheet comes in. Turns out he has a wife named Joni. And Joni also does an organic search. And she also used Yahoo. This is the first identified Yahoo family in America right here, okay? She searches Richmond, Virginia pools, and she reads 149 pages of the site. Between these two people, how many pages of the site have they now read? 520 some pages. What do you think that sales appointment was like? I walked into that house. Bill Grizzard has a spreadsheet in his hands. You're thinking, is this guy an accountant, right? He's got a spreadsheet in his hands. It's got the pool he is getting. It's got every option and accessory he is getting with the pool, and all he needed from me was one little thing, which was price. I walked out of that house 45 minutes later, not 2.5 hours later like the norm, 45 minutes later with a signed contract, $5,000 deposit, and as I drove away, I started to laugh because I realized something. How much selling had I done that day? Was he past 70%? Where was he? 99.99999. My only job was, do not screw this up, pool guy. Now, wouldn't it be nice if our only job was, just don't screw it up. Don't screw it up. Because you've already done the sale on the front end during that digital. Turns out that Bill Grizzard is not a freak. Bill Grizzard is a very successful surgeon. But he's also a consumer that wants to be comfortable with his buying decisions. I've realized many times since that day, and I really mean this, that content, assuming it's honest, it's the greatest sales and trust building tool in the world. Assuming it's honest and transparent. You know, last year we did 135 or so in-ground fiberglass pools locally. We know the average number of pages these 135 people read before they bought. Can anybody guess what that average was? Yeah, way to look at that screen. Good job, brother. 105. That's exactly right. 105 pages. Now, if you had come to me 6, 7, 8 years ago and said, Marcus, do you realize your average customer would be willing to read over 100 pages of your website before they buy? What do you think I would have told you? No way. You don't understand my business. You don't understand my industry. You don't understand our sales process. You don't understand my buyer. And I would have been dead wrong. I'm asking you to not underestimate the power of great teaching and the willingness of your buyers to consume it if you integrate it into the sales process and if you produce the stuff they actually care about versus the stuff that only the agency wants to tell them. There's a very big difference between those two things. Now, there's a few more interesting trends that are happening with all of us right now. I'm going to call it the me revolution here, okay? Because I want you to see what's next. We're getting obsessed with personalization. In other words, we want to know for us. Not generically, we want specificity. This is key going forward. Let me give you an example of a major trend. And we're going to bring it all together in a second. If you don't understand the trend at first, you're going to get it in a second, I promise, especially for your business, your company, your agency. So, phrases with the words "for me" have increased by 130% over the last 2 years. For me. Can you give me an example of something that you might search online and include the words "for me" in that search? Okay? My man said, what's in it for me? Go ahead, keep going.
Best car for me.
Okay, ooh. Now, Albie, you're a baller. Okay, here's an example. Which car is right for me? What diet is best for me? What is the best washer dryer unit for me? Now, this is the way we're searching. Now, let's do it for me in the insurance space. Anybody, come on. Okay, what is the best policy for me, right? What is the best type of coverage for my building? Do you see what I'm saying? This is the type of questions we ask. There's other stats, though. Interesting one here, too. Should I has increased by 60% in the last 2 years. Now, this one is really disturbing and interesting at the same time. Would you like to see the most searched should I phrases in the world right now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay? Are you teenagers? This is going to light you up, you youngins here, okay? All right? This is the future of America. Here we go. Here we go. What should I order for lunch? Should I get my hair cut? Number 3, this is the killer. Should I text him? Ladies, if you have to ask a machine if you should text him, the answer is no. And then finally, what should I do with my life? This is where we are. People tell me sometimes, I'm worried that artificial intelligence is going to take over the world, Mark. It's like, you don't understand. It already did. Should I text him? Yowzers. And then we have, of course, do I need 65% in the last couple of years? Now, you say, well, how does this apply to me, Marcus, specifically? Let's go even further than just answering simple questions. Can we make it interactive? Now, I'm going to show you an amazing example of what this means by an interactive, self-selective sales process that we, as this industry, there's no better industry for this, what we're talking about right now, than the insurance space. I'm telling you. And we need to do this before all your big box competitors are doing it. So stay with me, and you're going to see an example. Now, this is my daughter right here, Danielle. And she traveled around the world with me for about a year. It was an amazing time. When you do that with a kid, everything changes. For her, it was amazing. This is when we were coming up the Strait of Norway into Oslo one morning. We came overnight from Copenhagen, and it was just an amazing experience. And because she went with me to all these business conferences, she became quite the entrepreneur. And then she went to college this year, and she said, Dad, I want to start a business in college. I've been doing makeup in high school for everybody, and I would like to continue to do bridal makeup when I'm in college. I said, great, you're going to need a website, of course. She said, yep. So why don't we go to Wix.com? Now, Wix is a place where you can go and build a website for really, like, without any coding skills, without web designers and stuff like that. So we went to Wix.com, and as soon as we go there, it asks her, it says, we want your Wix experience to be perfect for your needs. Answer a few questions, help us get to know you better. By the way, this was the only thing she saw on the screen. There's no other distractions. She says, okay, that sounds good. Let's do it. Let's do it. And then Wix proceeds to ask a couple questions. Now, this, again, is the only thing that Wix shows on the screen. Now, here's what's interesting about this, okay? If you look at this right now, they changed the tone of voice. Who's speaking now? Who's speaking? Danielle's speaking now. It's in first person, so there's a shift. There's a reason for that. We'll talk about it in a second, right? And so she enters her answer. She says, myself, and then immediately it populates another question. See, it didn't give her both at the same time. It just added to it. It should be a what type of site? Once again, she's able to put in her information. It's going to be a beauty and wellness site, she says. And so they continue to walk her down this process. She's smiling literally the whole time. It continues. It says, you know what, Danielle, how about we create a website for you right now? How does that sound? Of course, Danielle's like, awesome, totally game. Let's do this right now. And so it says, all right, so you want to be a makeup artist, Danielle. Specifically, what type of makeup artist? Do you notice they're thinking specifics here, not generics? She answers. Then it says, well, does your website need any of the following? She's like, oh, yeah. I need to take bookings and make appointments. She's able to put that. And now it gets really interesting. It says to her, Danielle, what is the name of your business? Now, why is this so interesting? What does she not have up to this point? A name. And so if she puts a name right now, what occurs? becomes so real. The process of ownership starts. So she looks at me, smiles, thinking about the name. She puts a name in for her business. And then it says, so what's your style, Danielle? She's able to choose a style that fits what looks right to her. And then it says, okay, Danielle, I'm going to create your website right now. Awesome. She's getting excited. She sees it being built out. And then finally, it says, Natural Beauty by Danielle. Danielle, here it is, the first version of your website. She's looking at it. She's smiling. She looks back at me and says, what? Dad, credit card. This is real. Now, how could we do the exact same thing in the insurance space? Anybody give me an example? Come on. Come on. You know, most people aren't comfortable with silence. Man, I am. Because...
You're saying the exact same thing in the insurance industry. Is that what your question was?
Yeah, Richard, how could you do this? If you wanted to create this on your site, how could you do it?
Referring to maybe customizing insurance coverage for a specific customer?
Yeah, so what do you think the first question might be? Like, her, in this case was, are you creating a website, or are you creating a site for yourself or somebody else, right? So what could maybe your first question be to start it off with the prospect?
Probably what you want to insure or what type of business you want to insure.
Yeah, right. So are you looking for, is this for a business or personal, right? You might say that, right? And then you might say, what type of business, like you just said. So once you've said what type of business, what's another question that he might ask? Come on. You ask these questions every day, y'all. Keep going. Location, keep going. Revenue. All these things factor. And the whole time the person's entering it in, everybody's time is being saved. And they appreciate it. And it's becoming customized. And they're thinking, finally, somebody was willing to help me with this, to the point where at the end, it gives them something. Now, maybe you don't give them an exact rate because you can't, but maybe you give them a range. Maybe you give them a feel, but you give them more than what everybody else is giving them. Tim, does that make sense? This is the future of our industry. I'm telling you right now, right now, our future is personal self-selection. And oftentimes, your agents are going to walk people through this tool that's on your site as they're talking on the phone. Do you see where I'm coming from? And it sounds unpersonal, but we can make it more than that. We can make it extremely personal, but this is going to be major for us going forward. It's going to be extremely significant. Now, we've got 20 more minutes, and I want to talk about one other thing that we're going to tee up in the afternoon, all right? Which is a major, major trend that really is affecting all of us. And that is this. By the year 2019, which is how many months away? Some of you are like, yeah, 2.5 months away. What percentage of the content we consume online as buyers, as consumers, is going to be video-based content? May I have a guess? 80%. 80%. When you see that number, what does it mean to you, to your business, to your agency? Anybody, what does that mean to you? My man says, I better make some videos. Probably a good start, right? Probably a good start. I've done some studies on this. Guess what percentage of the content of our sites, of our digital right now in this industry, guess what percentage is video? Anybody have a guess? 22. Yeah, about 5%. About 5%. So the good news is this. We've got 2.5 months to take it from 5 to 80. The other good news is, if you're at 5%, it means your competitors are 5%. This is a major blue ocean of opportunity for you. There's something very specific that this means to me, and this is one of those pills that many of us don't want to swallow. What this means to me, whether we like it or not, at this point, we are all media companies. Media company that have to sell pools. I'm a media company that happens to do speaking. I'm a media company that happens to have an agency. But we're all a media company, whether we like it or not. My agency that I started about 6-7 years ago, today it's got 65 employees. And one of the things that we set out to do, what happened was I started to speak about what we were doing with pools, and then all these companies started saying, hey, can you show us how to do that? So then I started to grow that business. And then 2 years ago, I saw this trend with video and recognized we have a big problem. Here's the big problem. Everybody's starting to realize that we need to do video, but most of us don't have the ability to do it in-house. We don't even know where to get started. This is a huge struggle. Many people aren't comfortable on camera, which is another big struggle. Technology scares them, which is a struggle. And many of them outsource it to a video production company, spend thousands and thousands of dollars to get a handful of videos a year. That is not the future. The future is your ability to insource your video content yourself, to produce it in-house, hence a media company. And so I said, could we teach companies how to do this? And we started to see there were certain patterns of companies that were able to do amazing things with video, some of which I have seen in the insurance space. One of the majors is somebody on staff is solely obsessed with video. Could be a videographer. I've got 3 companies. They're not big companies. 3 different companies. All 3 companies have a full-time videographer each. One of my companies has 5 employees, one of which is a full-time videographer. Now, I don't know many companies in the world that have 5 employees other than video companies that would say, hey, we need a full-time videographer. I don't have a choice. This is what is demanded of me by the marketplace. So I've got to get over myself, and I've got to shift the way that I would have designed the company to structure it to today's demand. We're a media company, whether we like it or not. Now, the other stat that I think is so powerful has to do with social. Raise your hand if you've done anything with social media. Raise your hand with your business. Some of you college students didn't raise your hand. Yeah, right. Okay, so here's another one. And this one should be a forehead slapper. That is this. Social video generates what percentage more shares than text and images combined?
3.
You said what? 400 is a great guess. Really good guess. Anybody else have a guess? 1,200%. What does this mean? What does this mean? Mark, when you see this number, what does it mean to you? He said again, I need to get some videos made. Yes, but you know what it means to me? If we're swallowing pills, and we have to, right? Because we didn't come here not to be challenged. We came here to be pushed and do things and hear things that we haven't necessarily done before. What this means to me is, quite frankly, we don't have social media unless we are embracing video. Because if we're doing just sharing that article all day long or just writing some textual things or sharing a couple images, the results, comparatively speaking, are so nominal, it's almost a waste of our time. And I'm not saying that you can't have engagement through text and through other things on social. I'm not saying it won't be a value there, but if you want to build your brand, your business, your bottom line, we have to think in terms of the visual sale. Now, later this afternoon, I'm going to show you what we learned in the course of these 2 years. There's 7 specific types of videos that I've seen that if you create these videos, it will have a monumental impact on your sales and your marketing. I mean, major, major return on investment. And I'm going to answer any questions about video that I can in that latter session. It's going to be really, really fun. I think it's at, what time is it? At 1:12, 1 o'clock, something like that. Okay? You'll see it on the schedule. This is that thing, that rising tide that we cannot ignore. Quick question, just because I have about 10 minutes. Why has it been so hard for us as an industry, within our individual agencies, many of us as independent agents, why has it been so hard for us to embrace this shift of video? Anybody go? Give it to me. Come on. Bobby, what do you think? You're an honest fella.
Lack of capability.
Okay, capabilities. Anybody else? Okay. Who said age? So what do you mean by that? I like it, but what do you mean by that?
Well, I think social media is obviously the younger generation, the millennials.
Yeah.
You know, I talk to more people today. I'm 53 years old. And more people my age, older, you know, will say, I don't even know what to do.
It's pretty intimidating, isn't it? Now, what's your name?
Dan.
Dan. This is great, Dan. This is why I've seen two major positions that are critical. And what a lot of companies do, in lieu of just straight hiring a videographer, they hire what we call a content manager, all right, / videographer. Now, this is the one role that I would urge everybody to consider right now that could have a fundamental shift and change for your business. Now, content manager has the writing and the visual skills, but here's what's exciting. Never in the history of the world have we had more content managers available than we do right now. And they're called recent journalist graduates. So what can a recent journalist graduate do? They can write, they can edit, and they can interview. In other words, they can interview your agents, your producers, your team members, your subject matter experts, and get their voice on that screen through text, through video. That's what they are trained to do. So many of them, not only can they write and edit and interview, but they're very good with social because they're social natives. And beyond social, many of them are very good with video. In fact, I would urge you, Dan, to consider maybe a journalist major and a mass media minor, which means that the person has a complete set of skills visually and they can write, and they spend half their time on each. And here's the other element to the recent journalist graduate. They can't get a job. And so if they can't get a job, that means we have a high supply with the low demand, so we can fill a major need in the marketplace for these young students that are coming out with debt. And the thing about it is, a recent journalist graduate, if they work for a publication, guess how much they expect to make coming out of school? $30,000 to $35,000 a year. You can get this person for $40,000 a year, and they will have, again, a monumental impact on your business. And you never again have to say to yourself, it's just not something I understand. You're not going to fix that. But here's the thing, Dan. I know if somebody said to you, now all I need you to do is show up and answer my questions, you could do that all day, correct? If somebody said, now, just treat the camera like a customer and just talk to me like you would a customer in the coffee shop, you could do that. But if somebody says, can you handle our Twitter and our Instagram and our Facebook, you're going to say, this is not my thing, and that shouldn't necessarily be your thing, and I wouldn't say go back in time and make it your thing. Let's empower ourselves to do this by filling a major need in the marketplace. And it doesn't have to cost too much. Whatever you spend on this person, I promise you within the first year you'll get 10x the business, the sales, than you spent on this individual. Am I making sense? Is everybody with me? Say yes on that one. Yes. Okay, good. I'm hoping that you'll take action on that because it's going to have a monumental impact on your business. Final thought that I want to share with you before I close. And that is, I was once sharing this at a conference in Dallas, Texas, and when I was done, a reporter came up to me, and he says, Marcus, this is super interesting what happened with your swimming pool company. I think I'd like to do a story in the paper. And I said, yeah, sure, fine. I didn't think anything of it until we talked on the phone for 90 minutes a few days later. And then a few days after that, they sent a photographer down to my swimming pool company. And then a few days after that, on the cover of the small business section of the New York Times appeared this article right here. Now I want you to look close because there's two ironies to this article. First one is this. That shirt makes me look fat. Nathaniel, you were thinking it, weren't you? Yeah, buddy. There you go, bachelor. So, here's youngins. I'm going to make a suggestion for you. If you ever get on the New York Times, don't wear stripes left to right. It just doesn't pay off, okay? Not that big. Second one, and this is a serious one. Look at the title. A revolutionary marketing strategy. Answer customers' questions. Oh, daggone, New York Times, you have outdone yourself today, haven't you? Is there anything revolutionary about answering your customers' questions? In principle, no. But in practice, as we have well established today, yes. This became the #1 shared and emailed story for the business section of the Times for the next 3 days. They reran it again that Saturday in the blog section. And over the coming months, I had over 1,000 people contact me around the world And what was so interesting is almost all of these emails that they sent me said one of two things. First thing they said was, that thing you did with your pool company was so simple. Yes. Which is why hopefully none of you are thinking this had anything to do with pools. Because if you think this has anything to do with pools, we missed the mark entirely. This has everything to do with how we can become the most trusted voice in our space. And how we can combat the trends that are happening. The second thing that these emails said to me from these business owners and these marketers was, Marcus, I feel like you've given me permission to do that which I have always felt we should be doing. And that's the thing. Some of you have sat here this morning and you've thought to yourself, you know what, I've been saying that for a while. I've been thinking that for a while. Of course we need to do that. That's what I would want if I was in their position. That's right, I'm just asking you to do unto them as you would have them do unto you if you were in that same position. It's a great rule. It's worked for thousands of years and it will not stop working. I can assure you of that. Our challenge is simple. Let's obsess, truly obsess over what our customers are asking, thinking, searching, fearing. Let's be willing to address them on the front end during the 70%. Let's embrace technology and at the same time, hire the people that will facilitate our weaknesses and fill in the gaps. And if we do this, amazing things will happen. I've seen it over and over again. You've been awesome. Thank you so much.